Chains clink, hear the echo in the fog of the land. Dollar bills on the leash, gripped tight by the hand. Eagles clip, can't fly, wings covered in grime. Statues cry, tears of oil, rusted gears at a time. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan, they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Puppet strings pulled tight, marionettes in the hall. Politicians dance smooth while the empire falls. Mountains of debt, can't climb, can't crawl. Truth buried deep beneath the Capitol walls. Drums of war beat heavy, echo loud in the haze. Promises shattered like glass in a maze. Voices scream betrayal, trapped in the blaze. The flag waves torn, lost in forgotten days. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan, they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan, they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Trump card played wrong, now the deck's in their hands. Deal signed in the dark, bleeding out the land. Fist clenched, eyes sharp, time to make a stand. Own our future, no pawn, just a king in demand. Trump card played wrong, now the deck's in their hands. Deal signed in the dark, bleeding out the land. Fist clenched, eyes sharp, time to make a stand. Own our future, no pawn, just a king in demand.
Alrighty, welcome in everybody. I wasn't able to get Superman because Superman is a simp, and I wasn't able to get Batman because he couldn't be bothered. But I do have Spider-Man with me today, and we're going to talk about how marriage sucks. So with that, obviously, probably a lot of people wondering who this man is. Who is this wonderful gentleman sitting across from me? We'll get to know him. His name is Darkcel, and before we get into it, I just want to say as well, if you didn't check out the collab that happened yesterday at 6 p.m., it was with Outside the Overton. Those guys are fantastic. Definitely give them a look on their own channel. That's Zeb Boykin and Josh Vandernord. Was a fantastic conversation. Definitely check that out if you have not already. And with that, obviously smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And without further ado, Spidey, Darkcel, who are you and what do you do?
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is the Darkcel, but also I am your friendly neighborhood incel. Yes, I'm an incel. That's why I call myself Darkcel. Anyways, yeah, I started doing this stuff. I used to do a podcast. I say I used to. I still technically do, but it's probably changed about 4 times. But back in around 2018, so right before the pandemic ruined everything and ruined everyone's lives, I did a show and I used a voice modulator and I talked about a lot of the harsh truths of the world that could be about the relationship dynamics between men and women, and the unfortunate conspiracy theories that are in fact true in the world. So I kind of put myself in a market that made me look a bit weird, even within the sphere of the incels. Even I got rejected out of there. So, but up to that point, yeah, I've kind of kept it going. I've tried to keep true to myself, and I'm here with you guys now. So it is what it is.
Well, I appreciate you joining. One thing I was curious about, because you said you use a voice modulator and you had been targeted. Part of the reason driving why you don't want to be on YouTube, because they were nuking your channels. So in what ways were you getting targeted? And then also, was it the same reasons that you were getting kind of kicked out of the incel group? Expand on that a little bit more.
I think the issue with maybe my version of the incel thing versus everybody else is that I wasn't actually directly blaming any certain thing. I wanted to know more about the overall cause, right? It's different when you're talking about like, oh, Stacy didn't give me a chance. Like that's a very in my opinion, retarded way of going about it. It's like, well, it's not Stacy's fault and it's not Chad's fault. When it comes down to it's a genetic lottery. Why do we have the genetic lottery? Why do we have this and that? It's almost as if, and this is with any group, guys, this could be a political, social, it doesn't matter what group it is, right?
Right.
It seems like when you start asking questions that aren't particularly well received within that space, that's when people sort of start shutting you out. They mute you out. And also wearing a mask and having a voice modulator, it was very different at the time. Obviously, I'm not the first one to do it. There's plenty of people who have done it for different content in the past, but doing the incel thing, nobody had really done that. I think YouTube didn't like me because of I was just harsh. I didn't censor myself, which I've learned to censor myself a little bit, but then again, I'm on Rumble now, so it is what it is. But I did get picked up by a documentary from I think it was ITV, this British sort of I don't know.
Yeah, publication.
People.
I'd seen parts of it. I believe you had sent that to me.
Yeah, and when I did that, I was very nervous doing that because I was like, oh God, am I gonna get like whacked? And I even told them, if you guys are gonna whack me, just do it. But like,
yeah,
just I don't know. Like I was kind of paranoid because I didn't expect to get that attention. And also as a controversy, my name was linked to a girl that got killed, named I think her name was Bianca Devins. Is it Bianca Devins? She had gotten killed by somebody who followed me, and and they call themselves Darkcel. And so I was linked to that. My podcast was talked about on several, not on TV, but like on the websites.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of incels saw that. Some were okay. We're like, oh, you're the next ER. And then there's the other incels who are like, you're making us look really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know who who the hell's Bianca? I don't know. Like, I had no idea about it. So,
but was it somebody who? So it was definitely somebody who followed you. They were kind of like,
yeah, because I
impersonating
talked to him.
you.
I talked to him one-on-one once, like on like type like. Just ran. I thought it was just some fan, like someone who was like, "Oh yeah, I agree with your premise on this and that." But right now, and I think that guy's name was Brandon Clark, I believe. So
interesting.
And what's funny is when I did the documentary, the lady straight up asked me about Bianca Devins and asked me about Brandon Clark, and I was just like,
yeah.
I had nothing to do with it. I was working when that shit happened. Like
yeah.
I was actually had a life. I was doing things. So
no, I get that. So it's wild to see that the even the inside the incel community there is a lot of infighting. But I guess that seems to be the running theme with almost every kind of faction, especially in this day and age. And so it's curious because we had a bit of a discussion about, Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, because obviously that interview sparked a lot of different discussions, 6 ways from Sunday. And on that instance, you had said that Nick Fuentes was a Volcel. And I feel like I've only heard that term a couple times. So what is the difference between a Volcel and an incel?
Well, a Volcel is simply somebody who, a lot of times it's for religious reasons, or it may be they really are just waiting for that one person. Maybe they do just want that. And, if you really wanted to just go and goon with some chick, I mean, all you'd have to do is get a hooker, as they say. Um,
Right.
Although I have my own opinions on that whole thing, because that's another terminology we call escort cells. So it's people who can't get relationships, but they'll go screw some random, like, thought in the street type of thing. Because
Interesting. So
you know
only if they pay for it, that's the only way.
yeah, and then other people say, well, that's not a incel because you're still getting laid. But the fact of the incel, the terminology is that you want the relationship. You want to be able to do that whole Disney Channel original movie type of crap. Like you want to go down that whole road. So some people are satisfied with just the having the sex, and then other people want to have more than that. People like Nick
Yeah.
Fuentes, he said plenty of times he wants to have a family, and he did bring
Right.
that up on his interview with Candace Owen, which Candace Owen made fun of him, mocked him for that for some reason.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think Nick Fuentes, if he was here, he'd agree he's a Volcel. But it is,
Yeah, well, I think his terminology, what was it? He said something along the lines of like, we have to be fake cells, so our children will be real cells, I think was like what he was saying. Ultimately, kind of, I think, a symbolic kind of acknowledgement that, maybe like the issue of women probably isn't going to be solved in his lifetime. And maybe that's kind of like an acknowledgement to that. It's like, that's on my kids to figure out, man. Like, we're down the road from there. And so I'm curious, because we have one of these chats in here. I'll go ahead and grab it. It's from here from Extended Delta. Let me see if I can put it on screen. Now it says, I'm not particularly good looking. I'm not tall, out of shape at times. I'm successful now, but I wasn't most of my life. Yet I've been with many women. That's why I don't buy the incel argument. So what would your response be to that?
he said he's not good looking.
Yes, that's what he says at the beginning. He says, I'm not particularly good looking. I'm not tall. I'm out of shape sometimes.
Well,
But he says he's successful now.
he's successful now. But is he saying he had women? He had women before he was successful? Is he saying because
I'm assuming so. It says, yet I've been with many women. Now he
Right,
can
right.
probably give another comment, but I'm assuming so. That was his point, was that even despite all of that, he's been with women throughout his life. So what would your response be to that then?
I'd say that depends on the location that we're talking from. Is he a U.S. citizen? Is this U.S. women he's dealing with? Are you sure? Like because
Interesting.
I also gotta ask this: is this bull crap too? Because people do lie, and even if it's not bull crap, exceptions don't make the rules.
Fair.
Exceptions don't make the rules. That's it, dude.
Yeah.
If incels didn't exist, I mean, you wouldn't have people bitching about the whole thing. They'd be going to brothels, except we don't have brothels. So, like,
Yeah.
it's got to beg the question that when I hear people say, it's the same people that say, well, I saw a fat, ugly dude with a hot chick. And I'm like, how do you know they're not cousins? They're not siblings. How do you know
Right.
he didn't pay for her just to like walk with him? Because there was a lot of guys who will pay escorts to literally just walk with him. Or just
I
to
have
walk
seen
with him.
that.
So
It seems to be like prominent in like Asian countries, right? Like
Yeah.
paying for rent a girlfriends, basically. Like not even escorts, but just to have the appearance that you have a girlfriend with you.
oh yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be normalized very soon. Well, actually, the AI robot will be probably normalized real soon. But yeah, no, I don't know this guy. I don't know how tall he is. He says I'm not particularly tall. What does he think tall is? And what is, because I say anything over 6 foot, then you're in good shape in that department. But then again, face matters more than height. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. Look at Zac Efron. Who do you think pulls more women in their prime? Zac Efron or Andre the Giant?
Right. That's
Zac
very true.
Efron. Zac Efron 100% gets more than Andre the Giant. I'm not saying Andre didn't get women, but it was for completely different reasons. There's a different time in the world. I'll hear other arguments say, well, look at Danny DeVito. Okay, well, guess what? Danny DeVito, before he was, he knew this chick all the way from childhood, I think. And two, he became big and successful. That helps. It really does, especially when a lot of the women who marry a lot of celebrities are just gold diggers. That's what it is. But three, let's say she's not a gold digger.
Yeah.
Tinder wasn't around. Instagram wasn't around. We didn't have that stuff. Danny DeVito's like, what, 70 or something?
She's up there. He ain't young by any stretch of the imagination.
And also, you just can't use celebrities compared to the average person. The average person doesn't have that pull.
So. Yeah, no, I get that too. And, I guess one thing I would add in there too as well, which is like, and I said this here, even in the green room, like the time that the dating market has changed has happened so fast and so rapidly that it was basically like, for me, I think the majority of what we've seen now largely happened from like 2014 to 2025. Like that's where the majority, like if you got rid of that and you even went back to even like 2012, the dating market was probably 85% easier to navigate than where it is right now. And that probably would have been around the time Tinder was created. Kind of, because it was, I think eHarmony and like, Farmers Meet and things like that were probably around by then, but they didn't have the accessibility that like, an iPhone app could have. And so probably in conjunction with the iPhone being prominent and Tinder at the same time, I think it was obviously like a bad story altogether. But, to save that and go to a different angle, I've also heard individuals be incels because not because they aren't good looking, it's because they do view almost 99.999% of women not worth their time, not worth the trouble, and they're not even flat out attracted to them. Now, how prominent would you say that is inside the incel community?
Right, so the incel has the ego, not the woman. Is that
right.
What you're saying?
Correct.
I mean, besides ER, Elliot Rodger, I would say no incels think that way.
Interesting.
Because guess what? Elliot Rodger was the son of the producer of the Hunger Games. So Elliot Rodger was a rich kid. He had by the way, his father apparently tried to get him laid. Because he can do that because he's a Hollywood guy. It's like, I can get you whatever chick you want, pretty much.
Well, wasn't his thing that he never had approached anyone, right?
Well,
Didn't Elliot? He never approached anyone.
It's his problem. I mean, I'm going to say right now, Elliot Rodger's not somebody any incel or anyone in general should think is like some sort of lost, pathetic soul. It's like, or like, woe is him. Right. It's like, no, man, this is literally the stereotypical rich kid sort of ideology of, if I can't have that, no one can.
Right.
I better get this type of car, not this. Remember, he had a lot of stuff that the average, not just incel, but the average man can't have, and that's like,
interesting.
Look at all these cars. Look at all these cars I can get. Look at the clothes I can get. All the while, by the way, he didn't work. He didn't have to do any of that. He just had it because his dad was a producer in Hollywood.
He was rich.
So like, he had it, and I'm not saying, by the way, that rich kids can't be abused, mentally abused. They can't have issues. It's just Elliot Rodger is not the guy that you look up to and say that's the number one incel, because he doesn't represent the majority of people. And the majority of incels are, if I was to guess, most incels are either middle class or lower. I mean, that's really it. I mean,
no, I agree. And I do want to say too, if Zeb's still in here, appreciate you being in here, brother. Nice to see you in here. I always wanted to rip off some statistics too. Because also, I think Elliot Rodger also represents what I think the government is going to kind of, postulate as, or what incels are. Because you've already seen it multiple times, right? Talking about, a certain kind of, not red pill, but like actual incel kind of communities need to be registered or flagged as almost being like terroristic or terrorist cells. I don't know if they had went full length to that, But I know there was talks even way back in like 2022, 2023, that some of these communities, because of how quickly they were growing, government wanted to start flagging them for terrorist activity, which, I think if you're looking at in the lens of Elliot Rodger, I guess it kind of makes sense to them. But here's some of these statistics. These were insane. And so I think a couple of them I might have brought up yesterday, but here's a couple of them. And so I'm just going to rip them off. I think it's like 7 or 8 of them. Here's the first one. There's a report that came out that 45% of men aged 18 to 25 have never approached a woman in person. The second one, and this is from a report from 2023, or no, I believe it would have been earlier this year actually, that there was more women that were aged 40 and older who gave birth compared to teenage pregnancies, which is obviously reflects a huge shift in family planning. Then we have the fact that 1 in 3 men aged 18 to 24 have reported no sexual relations. Then you have a study that says the percentage of virgin men from 18 to 24, again, all youth, increased from around 18% in 2008 to it is over a third in 2018. And at this point, it's probably close to 40, 50%. Then this next one, data indicates over 60% of men under 30 are single compared to 30% of women, which obviously reflects for the hypergamy, right? The guys at the top typically aren't dating just one woman, they're dating multiple. Then you go to the next one. On dating apps like Tinder, the gender ratio is roughly 3 to 1. 75% female, 25% female. So it's 75% male, 25% female, forgive me. And then in 2022, nearly 18% of women aged 40 to 44 were childless, which was up 10% from where we were back in the 70s. That trend does keep continuing. And then we have the median age of first marriage. So back in the late 50s, it was 22 and a half for men and 20 for women. And now in 2023, or the last report for 2023, is it's 30.2 for men and 28.4 for women. And so I'll just address that last one there too. There is an element of this, which is people even ask too, because I had to talk about this with Outside the Overton yesterday, I think Josh specifically, and he had asked, well, what is the kind of like the worst word of encouragement? How should a young man kind of situate themselves? And, and ultimately I was kind of like, well, I think at this rate, it's probably better for the average guy to spend his 20s through 30s, working on himself and then getting married. But the issue is, though, is if the first age of marriage is around 30 and say you wait an extra 10 years because you want to really kind of hone on your skills. So say you're not even going to get married until you're closer to 40 and, you're dating a 20 or 30-year-old girl or whatever. That means that you have a high chance of dying before your firstborn child ever gets married. And that's part of the issue is like our lifespans are very finite. So the longer you kind of stretch these things out, you're basically kind of playing with, with what nature can do. And obviously, I think, what was it, that Super Bowl commercial of the old man with kettlebells, right? Seeing it was a feel-good commercial, but he was obviously having to work out because he wanted to be able to pick up his granddaughter. I think a lot more people will be in that position the longer that family planning continues to get pushed out. We might even start getting to the points where, not only are you not be able to, see your firstborn child get married, majority of parents might not even go to see their own grandkids if everyone's 40 years old when they have their firstborn child. And I don't think that's good at all. And I have some anecdotal experience, from kids in my class where, my parents were really young when they had me, but I also have some kids in my class who were, their parents were like in their mid 40s. And I'm like, that's wild to me. Like, how do they have you so late? But you could see how kind of relaxed they were towards their kid and they just weren't as hands-on. Maybe there's some pro elements to there I'm not thinking of, but I ultimately think it's a net negative for society. You begin to kind of pull the thread at those kind of generational ties when you're spacing it out so much that, the majority of kids aren't even going to know their grandfathers because everyone's having kids so late in their lifetime. But, and then I think obviously for you, I think the one that probably sticks out the most is the fact that, almost half of men, the young men, 18 to 25 aren't even approaching women. And I think that speaks to what we talked about in the green room as well, which is, I'm sure these guys want to, but the belief that the worst thing a woman can say is no is erroneous, right? And expand on that too. What are all the ways that saying no could go a lot worse?
Well, now, I'll add with this. even if it's not hitting on women, if you just say anything in public, like you're at a bar or whatever it is, right? Uh, if you say anything controversial and you're not trying to be controversial, you're just saying what you want to say. It does not take a second for somebody to put out their phone and record you, ruin your life. So just assume if you were like trying to hit on a woman and then she just records you. Maybe with that, maybe doesn't maybe she's not like video recording you, but she's audio recording and she knows what you look like. She gets some information out of you. You're telling her all this stuff, and then she uses that against you. Like
Yeah.
that's all it takes. And from what I can tell, people in general have no problem ruining each other's lives nowadays. There's no honor, amongst humans anymore. There really
Right.
isn't.
Among
Um,
thieves, yeah.
yeah, just like thieves. But I mean, but between a man and a woman, for a woman, she thinks she needs to record everything. Because this is the thing,
Yeah.
they've been told for decades that men are just these evil, you know, disgusting creatures that want to, grape them or do all this, torture them, whatever. This is why
Right.
you have that argument now, that stupid argument, the bear versus the man argument. Uh,
Right. And you have all these women coming out and they're like, I'd rather be with the bear, and I don't even think that was as much of an exhibition of women just being dumb, but I think it is like touching on this foundational oppositional facing towards men. It's like it's part of their education, it's part of their support system, it's part of the sisterhood. It's like men are dangerous. There's something inherent about men that they want to do bad things to you. And that seems to be kind of like the baseline level of knowledge that women get from other women. And I think it's very damaging.
and I think social media's um, some people say social media just revealed the true colors of people. I
Yeah.
would say I think it's just given people what is that Mike Tyson quote? People are too comfortable talking crap online, because they've
Yeah,
never been
right.
punched in the face, type of thing. It's
Exactly.
the same thing with women doing this stuff. It's like you could say it's like it's an inherent like hatred for men or something, but I think it just I don't know. It's like a combination between attention span of like that's why you have like the new incels. They can't even approach a woman. I have many times in the past.
Good.
Um,
Good on
but
you.
like, but like, imagine like an incel who approaches 50 women, but then in 10 years now they don't even approach one. It's like, well, now we're not even trying. Now it's like everyone could just call themselves an incel because there's like I just don't go outside my house. It's like
Right.
social media has damaged everybody. It's not just women, but it's damaged
True.
everybody. So it's a scary thing because I feel like I used to be able to just talk about whatever out in public, whether it be at the bar or something. But now
Yeah.
it seems like I gotta worry about scumbags pulling out their phones. So
We'll have another one here.
that's
I'll go
actually
to
worse than that's like, by the way, that's actually worse to me. Someone pulling out a phone and recording you. I think that's worse than just getting in a fight.
so
I'd rather get a fight.
I thought about talking about that topic, as a side point, but it was news to me that Japan actually, I think it's Japan. Japan made it mandatory that all iPhones and like devices that are developed in, for use in Japan, it's mandatory that the shutter is always on. You can't turn it off. So if you're recording somebody, you take a photo of somebody, it makes a very loud sound. Because apparently, I guess in Japan, they're having very like a lot of trouble with voyeurism and like guys taking photos of people's skirts and stuff. And I figured that might be I don't know if that would be beneficial to have in America, but it seems like maybe it's a decent step to at least kind of prevent everyone from immediately going to their phones. If it's like, it's going to make a sound, you're going to get eyes on you, you're probably less likely to record. But it's also an intimidation thing. So if you want to try to record like, Antifa breaking into a building and when you go to do it, it goes, it's like, yeah, you're going to get, concrete milkshakes thrown at you like Andy, no.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go to Carl Johansson, or I think it's how I say it. Correct me, Carl, if I'm butchering it. But this is what he says here. And so his chat is, these are all criticisms of American women, though. seems like women from other countries are still relatively normal. Agree? Disagree?
I disagree. Internet is everywhere. It's not just here. Even third world countries have them. Women know the plot, man. We talk about sisterhood. Just look at women, sisterhood versus brotherhood. Brotherhood barely exists. That only exists in the realm of like war. If you're in the middle of war, you're in the trenches, makes sense. But why are you in the wars? Because of the women and children, not because you give a damn about your brother. Women, on the other hand, have this weird. It's very cultish. This is why most women, like 99 something percent of them, vote Democrat. All women are collectivists. Yeah. They're collectivists by nature. Men are individualists. This is why we get in fights more often. That's why we get in very heated debates, because we literally disagree on almost we can disagree on everything. I mean, you hope that you can go share a beer later, but like, a lot of guys were just programmed to not take shit, not be told to not press the red button,
Right.
It's like it's an ego thing. It is, but when you look at women, the only time women ever go against each other is when either there's like the alpha, there really is like an alpha male, like Beowulf looking, Captain America looking guy, or it's literally like there's no men around in the first place. So who else do you have to fight? It's amongst the women. That's the only time women ever break that sisterhood code. But you're talking about the worldwide and how women are across the seas. You think a woman in France is any different than a woman in Southeast Asia or like a woman in Germany or something? Like they all think the same at this point. They have different language. They have different, way of expressing themselves, but they all.
Yeah.
I saw a video of you can watch videos of dudes going up to women on the streets and asking them about men, and it's outside of America. It's in the most random places you can go, and guess what? They all say men are trash. Doesn't matter if this doesn't even matter if it's in Dracula country. Like they're all saying this stuff.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. It's probably only like maybe a few months ago that I saw a popular channel posted a bunch of videos of walking the streets of, I think, London. And it was like showing that all the women in their streetwear, it's identical to America. We got those videos from, Ukraine actually, from like, almost like a year and a half ago, actually. And they're in the middle of a war, but what's Kiev look like? They're having raves and it's an EDM concert, and people were making fun of the fact that all the men are gone. It's mainly just women dancing because all the men went and died. Yeah. It's like, I think if anything, that is representative of, a very dumbed down idiocratic kind of like, Western values like that, Western values shorthand for like degenerate shit pushed by, those guys from Israel. But I do think you're right. I think especially any kind of first world country is probably captivated in the same way, if not almost identical to the way America is. And then it probably extends into third world countries too. And I think part of that may also now be a different, dynamic because of all the guys who have fled America essentially to go to, Thailand and Indonesia, and, men going their own way, right?
MGTOW, passport bros. Yeah. Those people.
Yeah. Passport bros. And they probably changed the dynamic over in those countries. Because if women can now expect in those countries that men will just come in and swoop and save them from other countries, it's probably now actively harming the domestic and local populations of men there, because now they have to compete against American men who had to globalize themselves in order to compete in the dating market too.
And so I've already heard, I've had a debate other incels on the stuff. They hate it, but this is the truth. You as an American, and they know you're American, they sniff you out. They just have to look at you for a second. They're like hyenas, man. They just know, man. They start laughing their asses off because they're like, here's this American, here's this American. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, this or that or that. They can just tell you're a tourist. You don't know anything about our country. Guess what they do? And if anyone's ever watched, by the way, Hostel, like the movie's Hostel, that's like true story crap. And what I mean by that is, just because you think you're going to, by the way, that whole movie's about literally passport bros. Hey, let's go to, I think it was in Thailand. I think that's what the movie setting was. It could be like Serbia. I don't know.
Right.
but they
Somewhere that's
go,
not America.
yeah, it's someplace. And guess what? The women all try to act nice with you. There's brothels over there, and then what do you know? Suddenly, you got a gang of dudes trying to chop your head off because,
Right.
and it's very interesting how many times, by the way, I hear like the MGTOW or the red pill community say, just go overseas, and I'm like, okay, it's not that simple. What you're not telling the average man is that you're gonna have to learn their language, you're gonna have to learn the customs, the laws, you're gonna have to learn their currency. One, you're gonna have to. It's like, are you there just to screw, or are you there to live there? Because it's like, if you're just there to screw, I don't. You're gonna
Yeah.
get screwed. You're gonna get screwed over, and not in a good way. It's like, um, so it's a very,
Right.
it's dangerous. It's dangerous to do that stuff, and
I
I think
guess
it's
then,
very, yeah.
well, I guess my question then to you, because I have seven in my mind, a few different ways of going about it, but I want to know where you are. What is the solution then? Right? Like, what is like, not only like what is the solution in the aggregate, but also like what is the solution for, say, another 18-year-old guy who's watching this who feels very similar to you? What are those solutions and what do they look like?
Well, I guess depending on the guy, if you're like actually average and you do have, if women actually are showing interest and stuff, I think honestly, you should get married early. I think you should get the first chick that you really resonate with and deal with that, because if you're trying to do like a long haul version of dating, it's just not going to look good. I mean, you're going to look at yourself one day, you're going to be like me, you're going to be 30 years old and realize 10 years have gone by or whatever, and it's like nothing's really happened in terms of dating. So if we're talking about just dating and just between men and women, I would say that you need to act fast. I mean, you have to kind of know what you want to do, like right then and there. I mean, if you don't, then it's going to be a scary ride, because one day, once again, it's like you're going to grow old. It's just that's just inevitable. And unfortunately, I would say, you usually watch a movie and they're like, the guy with the midlife crisis is in his 40s, but I'd say no, it's your midlife crisis as a man is after high school, because now you gotta figure out what you want to do, because especially since most men aren't going to go to college, it's like you got to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to another country, like if you just want to leave the states, assuming you're American listening to this, if you want to go to another country, go ahead. But um, I would say do as much as you can early on, because it's gonna suck down the road, because I won't say hit the wall, but everybody hits the wall at some point. Not just women,
Right.
men hit the wall too. And I think men just need to know their own self. Don't listen to other guys. Don't listen to other guys like communities. Don't listen to them, man. If you know what you can, what you're capable of, just do that. Yeah, because remember, it's you. You're gonna die alone. We all are born alone and we
That
die
seems,
alone. So
that's so depressing though.
it's
I mean,
depressing as hell, yes,
well,
but it is what it is.
let me grab this then, because this is from Todd Packer. He says, if you ain't a Chad, it's dangerous. And this
Yeah.
seems to be very reflective of what I'm seeing from, I believe it's the Incel dot. I'm trying to remember. He's like one of the flagship kind of accounts on X. That's like a prominent incel account, and he says very similar things too, which is basically like entirely black pilled. If you didn't win the genetic lottery, give up. It's over. Just don't even waste your time. And when we were looking at some of the topics and additions, you would kind of put the black pill versus the red pill. And so I'm curious, like, where are you at with that? Like, are you on the side of like, well, if you didn't win the genetic lottery, like just give up? Because I'm curious what you meant by you think the black pill is superior to where the red pill is at.
The black pill is just very simple. It's simple but harsh. So I would kind of look at it this way. If you want to compare it to the blue pill, the blue pill is like the average MCU fan who knows nothing about superheroes and just watches the MCU. They think they're fans of whatever particular hero. Now I'm going to give you the red pill version of that. Red pill is somebody who actually watches the cartoons, the old ones. They go into the movies, the other movies. They go into the actual comics, maybe. but
Yeah.
just the surface level stuff. Because red pill is still surface level. Now, the black pill is, let's say if I told you Spider-Man ripped a woman's face off with his hand, would you believe me?
No.
Because he did that in a comic. That's like the black pill, where the average person doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, probably doesn't care. And that's the point. Black pill is just that harsh reality. And it's not meant to make you feel dread or feel depressed even. It's meant to be like, it's meant for the guy that gets told he has cancer, but he doesn't care because he's like, has nothing left anyway. It's like, you're just telling me the truths. I'm not going to react in any way. I'm not even angry about it anymore. I would say black pill, if you want to be angry about it, you can. But my point is red pill. Red pill is where everyone gets angry. That's the PUA guys. These are the Andrew Tates of the world. These are the angry guys. I'd say black pill is more the I'm smoking a joint or I'm drinking a beer after work and I'm just gonna play video games.
Interesting. So you're saying the black pill's at like the acceptance stage and the red pill's still in like the denial stage.
I'd say red pill is like you still have angst in you. Yeah. Whereas the black pill's like, what that happened? Oh no, God. Hey, let me go back to my Halo 3. Like it's a very
I get it. I mean
it's kind of like how people are reacting to like Israel. A lot of people are either angry or they're just like, I don't give a damn. You know, it's like part of there's a apathy happening. You could say it's like borderline nihilism. It could be, but
yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, I get that, and I don't really even know where I'm at on it because I feel like I'm losing my ability to have any statement on it because I've been outside of the dating market for 5 years. I'm almost a boomer now compared to like where you know where some of these young guys are at, and so you know when I'm trying to think about how to give advice and how to navigate like going through these dynamics, obviously me personally, I think the red pill gives practical solutions for men, and some of which are good, right? Like I think the whole idea of like get up, go to the effing gym, stop crying, you effing pussy. Like I think those are like just general kind of tips of like at least give yourself a better chance. Because what I do see sometimes is guys who might not have won the genetic lottery, but also aren't helping themselves either by not even going to the gym and are kind of like in a sad state where they kind of have given up on themselves. And I think ultimately the only way I would accept a complaint would be if a guy like, worked his ass off, has a well-paying job, and is hitting the wall, and it's like, I can't find a decent woman. Not a matter of like I can't find any woman, but a matter of like I can't find a good one. And there are some cases like that with butterface guys.
I think the worst, and that's the thing, the worst types of incels I've met are guys who are way too young to be knowing about all this crap. They're way too young to be like, it's weird. It's like you're old. You're too young to be that old. Like, like you're supposed to be having fun. And I don't know, whatever fun means to the average person, I guess, whatever, that's up to them. But
you're like, I forgot that definition a long time ago.
Yeah, it's whatever. But I think it's sadder if you're like 16, you're already like, oh, I'm an incel now. I'm like, you're not even, dude. What the heck are you talking about, dude? You haven't even tried. And half the time I'll ask them, yeah, but did you try? Like you said, you like the girl. Did you try? Did you do anything? Like what's up? And they're like, no, man. I watched your videos and I immediately like, and it's like, well, am I the bad guy because I said? But it's weird because in my perspective, I'm already past the high school stage. I'm past the mid 20s. I'm 30 now, and I'll be 31 in like several months. So it's like, it's weird to hear somebody who's 16 cry about stuff that he doesn't know anything about. It's like, dude, you're on it is like one of those, if you're too young, I think you should go touch grass. I think you should go and try to do as much as you can. But if it's 20, if you hit 25 and it's all over, it is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. Because I think that also the problem is your generation, your peers, after high school, it's really hard to find people your age because everybody just kind of disappears. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, I
Yeah.
was wanting to move into that too, right? Because a couple of topics we can move into. Because I wanted to address this first. 'Cause, going to brotherhood, and I think pornography is actually a strong subject on there that I did not put in the outline that we definitely can move to. But I'm going to be honest, man. There are times when I'm on X and I see a video from a woman, and I'm like, dude, I'd punch that bitch across the fucking world, dude. I'd put her through a wall. But it's like I don't want to feel like that too, because it's like, well, I don't be hateful about random people. But at the same time, it's like I do get it, and I think I've said this multiple times, but it's kind of like the flipping a quarter, if you will. Obviously the chances are that it's 50-50 shot. You're going to get heads or tails. And when I kind of apply that to the female situation, but like say you flip that quarter 100 times, okay, you're not going to get 50 heads and 50 tails. You're going to get 57, 40, 57 or 43 or like something like that, right? 53, 47, some kind of combination. It's not going to be exactly 50-50. And I use that to kind of outline, like, I do think that the woman problem is a bit off kilter. And by that, I mean, I think it's like 60-40. Now, some people even in the Discord would go, a lot further than that, right? They'd say it's 80-20, it's 70-30. But I am of the belief that it is largely being driven a lot more by one gender than the other. And, and I think you get so much whataboutism in this space, which is, you'll say one thing about women, and then the response to that is, what about men though?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, well, these aren't like equal playing fields, right? It's like they're not one for one exchanges either. Like women and men are entirely two different categories. So to act as if like, and that's how people will move to. They're like, well, there's problem with both men and women. And it's like, that's a very willfully ignorant take.
It's also not trying to answer a question. It's so easy to just be like, yeah, so who cares about the dogs dying? What about the cats over here? It's like,
right.
Okay, but like we're talking about dogs. It's like we're talking about a specific entity here. And it's interesting. As much as I sound like I hate the red pill, I still think like Fresh and Fit and like the whatever podcasts are actually good for men to watch. I'll sometimes have it in the background while I'm doing my work. I just have it in the background. But they do say the stuff I'm thinking all the time. And the way the women react, it does make you just realize women just either just don't care that what's going on in the world, like what's happening between the dynamics between men and women, or they do know. Sorry, they either don't care, they know and they don't care, or they really are ignorant. Like they just don't see that side. It's actually it's crazy. But
that's where I am. I think, to me, it's like we have to work with the tools that we have, and so to me, it's like, well, it's like, where would you push a guy? And it's like, well, I think ultimately, I think he's going to have better practical outcomes if this guy watches Fresh and Fit from, 14 years of age to 18 than he will be if he watches like The View or Disney or like, and so that's kind of like where I'm at, where it's like, it's not even a matter of like having a nitpick about what's wrong with them. It's like, you don't even have that option. It's like, there's really kind of like two pathways. It's, you can push them into the Disney adult path of life, which is everything's great. We all love the new Star Wars. White people suck and we all love blacks. Or you have the other side, which is Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, the whatever podcast, which is like, nope, feminism, like you have to stand on your own 2 feet. You got to be better about yourself. But it does come with the whole like polygamy and maybe going a bit too far in terms of like their kind of like, hierarchy of like what women are, right? In terms of losing that respect. Because obviously I'm a Christian nationalist. There's a lot of nuance there for me. And, but to me, it's like, it's hands down. Go watch Andrew Tate, dude. Get the hell away from Disney. Like, you're going to be a twink if you watch that stuff for 2 years. Like, get away from that. But it's like, and that's just kind of like where I'm at with it, right? These are kind of the options. And part of it is kind of sad too, because I ultimately, and I said this maybe about a year ago, what if Christianity wasn't in such a cucked position that what if Andrew Tate, like Tristan, would have went to a Christian position instead of an Islamic one? Because most people don't know that, right? Tristan's Christian, but Andrew's Muslim. And I think a big portion of that probably was because he went and looked at Christianity and it was like, nope, this is cucked, this is weak. And he looks at how people who practice it and he's like, I would never do this because it's unnatural to him. You know, and maybe that's just kind of like a strong hypothetical to give an excuse to date. But I kind of see that, which is like, we have no one in the spot we need them to be. So why would you expect men to choose the kind of Christian position, right? It's like, where's the role model that's saying to do that? It's like they're nowhere to be found. So to ask men to be driven to a spot that no one's waving them to is like, that to me is like the ridiculous ask, which is why I'm trying to obviously present myself and push people who I agree with, you know, like the Joel Webbins of the world. I think Nick Fuentes is a bit more spot on with where he's at, but obviously I think, you know, he's kind of unique again with his kind of position towards marriage. But that's kind of, you know, it's kind of sad. It's like there is no kind of good 100% can't go wrong male role model you can immediately direct somebody to without having to give some kind of caveat. Oh, he's a little gay sometimes. He's a little Muslim. You know, he is kind of, you know, it's like there's always caveats with everybody. So there's no one you can kind of push him to. That would be a solid 1-for-1.
Right.
But, you know, moving beyond that, though, something you've brought up multiple times that I think is good and can be found with a lot of these groups with like Fresh and Fit and whatever is the lack of brotherhood. And you would kind of compare that to sisterhood, where sisterhood is like this strong kind of like benevolent force, and then brotherhood's like non-existent. Do you want to explain on that a little bit more?
Yeah, and I'm going to use a very, it could be niche to some people. Other people, if you watch the show like I did when I was a kid, if anyone's ever watched Justice League, has anyone ever watched that Justice League back in, I think this was 2000, 2001-ish, like that stuff. This is back when like Toonami was a thing. This is when like Adult Swim had just happened. Because when I was growing up, you know, after Justice League ended, it was Looney Tunes, you know, Bugs Bunny and all that stuff. So I remember when Justice League happened, I loved it. I loved Superman, Batman. I loved the whole concept of all the heroes together. Then there was that one episode. It was a 2-parter, and it was called Theory. Now, when I watched it as a kid, I was kind of like, oh, this is pretty crazy, you know, but as an adult, in any adult, if you watch this episode, I'm just talking about this one these two-parters, it will black pill the hell out of you. Even the creators of that show knew what the hell they were doing. So just to give a quick synopsis of it, so I could get you guys kind of in the headspace of this. Just imagine Themyscira, where Wonder Woman's from. If you understand the lore at all, if you don't, I'm here to pretty much talk all that. But Wonder Woman had left Themyscira to join the Justice League. She liked the man's world. Themyscira is specifically all women. So they created this whole storyline where a woman or a little girl who got washed to shore just happened to be in Themyscira. They took care of her, raised her as one of their own, created a warrior out of her. But for some reason, she hated men. Yes, the whole episode is about misandry. It's about gynocentrism. And let me tell you, the way they start this stuff out, somehow this chick, and I don't understand the concept of Themyscira, by the way. I didn't know it gave you superpowers because they made her stronger than Superman somehow. It's just the stupidest crap I've ever seen in my life.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. But she comes to, you know, Metropolis. And she had, what happened is she had started forming a group of women, like other, you know, bad girls, whatever you want to call them, the villainesses or whatever the terminology is. Yeah. And what happened is they wanted to kill all men on Earth. And for some reason that the Amazons have this weapon that literally sends a virus out to the whole world to exterminate men. I mean, that's news to me that they had something like some sort of magic that just killed everybody. Yeah. So guess what happens? Superman practically goes in a coma. Batman, who's trying to find the antidote, goes in all the men. And by the way, Justice League, we're talking, Batman, Superman, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, Green Lantern, whatever. And then you got Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman. Let me tell you, when the men were going under, no woman, good or bad, gave a damn that the men were going to, like were practically dying. They were showing a whole montage of, well, where are the men? We need to, because the police, it's all women now, because all the guys are gone,
Yeah.
Where's the paramedics? It's all women now. Every single, obviously there's a message to it, right? Like we need each other, that's the end of the message. But the problem is I had the whole time is, where the hell was Supergirl? Where's Batgirl? Where's like the female superheroes? It's like they just said, I guess, whatever. It's like screw the men. And that black pilled the crap out of me. I was like, whoa, Batman, you mentored Barbara Gordon to be Batgirl, and she didn't give a damn. It's like you telling me Kara, you're telling me that Clark Kent, Kal-El, your cousin, you just don't care. He's the last of the Kryptonians. You don't care, and that black pilled the crap out of me. It's just in general. Just, this
is like Gamergate stuff too, right? This is like, you see it all the time. It's they'll post, it's like these are the women working on the storyboard for Assassin's Creed, whatever that new one was, and they show it, and it's like you're looking at. You just walked into SeaWorld, dude. It's like, why am I looking at 18 different whales? And it's like, oh, those are the people who are making the games. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the same thing's true with comics, and you go to like movie productions and you're like, oh, who made this, right? You go and you look at it and it's like this absolute tank of a woman with like a massive septum ring, blue hair. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. And, this is probably a longer theme as well, but just like the subversion through almost all American media and the way that it not only portrayed men, but men's role models, men's interactions with women, and women's responses to those interactions, it was all very carefully curated. Now, if you were asking me, I would tell you, just go look at what Al Goldstein said about, what he was doing with pornography. And I think that you'll largely get a better idea of why you're seeing all this subversion at large. Now, I know you had said this too before, which is, ultimately, when you look at it, even objectively, when America was at the height of its, upholding its Christian values, that was when it was like at its most kind of cohesive and objectively kind of good position for men, women, children, families, kind of everybody. And obviously, since moving away from that, we're clearly, falling very, very far away from there. But I wanted to kind of switch this over to like where pornography is at, because I do feel like there is a large kind of one of the big barriers to, I think, what this conversation is, and in order to maybe get the results that we would like to begin seeing, I think porn is one of those barriers. Now, I'm a proponent of banning it outright. Like I would sign that law into effect today. Now, obviously, I think a lot of guys would immediately, hate that because it might be their only access to, women without having to actually interact with the woman. But at the same time, I do think generationally that would have strong long-term benefits for men if they were denied that access, which would mean it would basically force them, where it's like, if you want access to this side of a female, you're going to have to work at it. Like, you're going to have to figure out how to be a Chad, like make yourself a Chad. But that also doesn't really do much in terms of accountability for women on the other end, so it's just a thought out there. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on pornography? I don't think we've ever had this conversation before.
I think it depends on how we define that. Like, what do you define as pornography? Because let me just say this: as a kid, that same show, by the way, Justice League, it did a lot of things cartoons today would never do. Very, very suggestive things. And I remember this mechanics. Let me just tell you, dude. Yeah, let me tell you. There's this one moment I, for some reason, remember, and it's obviously there's a reason for it, but for some reason I remember this moment, and I remember it was Green Arrow, if you know that character, Green Arrow.
Yep.
Is with Black Canary, and they're like sparring. And then after they're done sparring, they're just like talking it up in the locker room type of thing. And then she just does this one little thing, right? And their conversation, as a kid, I have no idea what they're talking about. But as an adult, you know what they're talking about, and they're getting very sexual. And
Right.
she says something, and she takes off her jacket just slightly, and her boobs like jiggled. Very good animation. I was like, wow, that's very
Right.
that's some good. Now, as a kid, would you consider that pornography? Like, what would you consider that? Just
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider that pornography. For me, I would probably, explicitly say, well, I think there's multiple ways to define it, right? I think you have hardcore, you have softcore, and then you would have suggestive materials.
right.
And I think everything that you would have said there would have probably all fallen under like suggestive materials, where I guess it's maybe not showing any kind of skin. Um,
Well,
you
she's
know,
showing she's wearing one of those crop tops, sort of.
yeah, I guess maybe
So
it would fall under
you're
soft porn. I guess I'd have to like look at the categorization, but
right.
the idea is still being though, I obviously don't like it, and having those, especially for like kids, right? What's the
Yeah.
average age of the person who consumes that? It's probably a 13-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy.
8 to 13, yeah,
Yeah, and
around
like
that time.
that's aggressive because what is it? It's like the average age that a boy comes into contact with pornography for the first time, or it might be for everybody, man and woman. It's like 11 years old. It's like I mean, I think that's you can't even begin to articulate how damaging that might be to an 11-year-old's brain. And so
But do
on
you
those
think
ends, that's why I would like
right,
easily, if it's explicit, right? If it's hardcore, ban it entirely.
right.
I got actually mad the other day because I had thought, because there's that new meme going around, right? It's the James Dokes, I think is his name, from Dexter. And it's a new one coming around where it's the him where he's like looking at the guy because he's suspicious of Dexter. And that turned into a new meme. But he was also a meme before that, which was the surprise motherfucker, right? That was like the meme of him beforehand. And I literally was like, I just wanted to confirm it because I wanted to make a funny post on X. So I just type in surprise mother F. Because I'm assuming like I'll find a meme on X. Because there's got to be, everybody posts memes on X everywhere. The second post I scroll down, full nude image of a mother.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, it's unusable. Like the X as a platform for one, the commingling of pornographic content with like political content to me is just like it makes me hate the app because very simple search terms can give you full blown hardcore porn.
Yep.
No, I think that's going to be eliminated entirely. Instagram's a different story because you have all of like the woman is like, oh, forgive me, my bad, guys. You get the woman who's like, I'm just working out, but it's her doing like the most suggestive workout and the most skin tight pants with like a small weight placed specifically between her legs, giving you the idea of exactly what you think it is. And then the same thing is like with the breastfeeding, right? Women were getting around with that. They're like, oh, guys, I'm breastfeeding. And it's like, they're using dolls just so they can get away with posting cleavage. And that's why I think you need like a hard level, like actual ban at like the federal level of like the hardcore content, and then be a bit more harsh with like the individual platforms and the rules that they need to uphold. Because ultimately it's not good. And
Now, if there was a way to regulate corn, but it was like only adults literally could see it. Like you have to go through the process. And by the way, a lot of the corn sites now, if you even try to get on there, they do ask for ID. So they are changing it a
interesting.
bit. They are changing it a bit. Don't ask me how I know, but no, but
Don't
no, no.
expose yourself.
Well, no. I'm gonna straight up say it's actually interesting because I had heard about it.
Yeah, it's multiple states now. I think Oklahoma
Yeah,
might
and
be the
I
first one.
actually I think Cornhub was the first one because I was like, let me go to Cornhub, and it immediately asked me for my information for ID.
Yeah,
So
and it
if
pulled out of
all of
certain
them,
states.
yeah, and I think if all of them did it, I have no problem with that. I think, but that's the thing. You want it outright gone, as in not even adults should be able to watch it, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I guess for me, I don't know. I don't know because it's. I think there's certain types of corn I don't think should be allowed. That for some reason have become more prevalent over
Yeah.
time.
Well,
If you and let me just say, if I remember, Cornhub has the categories, and there's categories there that wouldn't have been around 10 years ago. So it does seem like it's getting more deprived. It's like more. Uh, they're just inching their ways to be, arrested. I swear, it's like they're just trying to inch their way to that
Well, and
that fine line.
I do agree with that too. I do want to say one thing. SJW, thank you very much. He's donated 5. I appreciate that very much. And he says, we getting married with this one, fellas. It's funny. And I guess where I would go with it too, the reason why I'm against it entirely, and even for adults, is you got to think about like just let's frame it properly. So do you think that men should be like, and let's just go right into being a little bit graphic. I think that porn is just digital cuckolding.
Okay.
And so it's on those ends that I don't think that it should be allowed for even adults, right? I don't even honor the libertarian argument of like, well, they're free adults and they should have liberty to do those things. No, I don't agree with that. And largely too, because again, this isn't even just about, single men. This is about married men being married and in relationships with their wives and simultaneously being addicted to pornography. And to think that that's not going to present an element of dysfunction in your sexual life with your wife, I think is ignorant. You have to be very ignorant of like what it does to your brain. And so I think on those ends too, I'm not just about protecting, the male dating market. I'm also of the mindset of protecting all of the steps after that, which is the marriage and the family and the children. Because ultimately, if the reason that your marriage failed is because you couldn't not stop logging into Pornhub at every time before you went to bed because you had to goon, it's like, well, you just failed as a father to your children because you couldn't beat the most simple kind of urge. And I know that's kind of harsh to hear, but that's why I think there does need to be some kind of federal control of it. Like just ban it. I mean, it's like, and because I can't see any good reason of why a guy would do it outside of the give a guy an excuse who might be in an extremely sexless marriage. He's in one of these hellscapes that me and you both know are very, very real. And he's just looking for some way to like have some kind of sexual relief.
Right.
So I do get that. Not that I think it's right, but I understand how a guy gets to that level.
Is it the let me ask this then, is it the gooning itself or is it just the actual explicit imagery and videos itself? Like which one is it? Because let's say, for example, somebody is able to, I don't know, in their head visualize, whatever it is they like, whatever it is,
right?
And then they goon, but they're not on the internet trying to find stuff. They're just doing it on their own. Let me ask that, like,
yes.
like, or let me make it even kind of, I draw for a living, so I know how to draw women. If somebody can draw a woman and make them look, the way they want, and then they goon over their own drawing, for example, is that in the same realm as Pornhub?
I mean, I don't think that the lever would need to be that the federal government needs to like raid your house and, burn the images that you might draw at home. It's more so to say that you do something that strong, right? When you apply a law with that level of morality in it, which is we find it unacceptable that there would be for-profit digital companies that just sell these images and videos. I think that's more like a strong barrier to prevent men from being able to access it. Now, what you're kind of saying is like, what about the guys who will circumvent it, right? Which is, you kind of get that Theo Von, right? Where he's like, you were buying pictures of vagina for $4. He's like, I'd pay $8. It's like, so like, it's clear that there would be a want and some people would still do it, but it's more so to say that at least when you have that strong of a moral barrier or just a law, a legal barrier, the majority of men aren't going to go out of their way to, one, learn how to draw, or two, pay for someone else for them to draw it for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it starts to enter into like that shame aspect, which is now you would have to then find a plug for pussy drawings. You know what I mean? And it's like that now kind of puts a few different barriers on it, which would kind of prevent that. And obviously, I do think that the goal with it is obviously to protect the sanctity of the marriage between the couple long term, and also to prevent young men from being caught up in that trap too, because once you get caught up into that, you're basically, and you get into a habit of it. I mean, anyone who's gooned before, any guy who is in this chat right now, like you are a digital cuck. That is what pornography is. You are getting off to a video of another man absolutely demolishing a woman that you fancy. I mean, there's no other way around that. And it took that being worded to me exactly like that, about, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago, that made me stop outright, because I was like, they're right. They're totally right. And now I've had stories of other guys who I've known too, who have been in bad habits like this. And they're having things like, they're having like ED like symptoms, and they're 28 years old. It's like,
Right.
that's not okay. You should not be having erectile dysfunction at 28 years old. And especially when you're married to a woman, it is because you have trained your brain to only be attracted and, aroused by the digital version of events that aren't even real life. And that's just to kind of maybe give a more kind of robust answer back to that. And obviously I know a lot of libertarians are very protective of how far would you go in banning outright digital material.
Yeah. So I guess my thing is, it's actually interesting because I never went down the route of having to look at women completely nude. It's interesting. Because I grew up with slasher films, like horror movies.
Yeah.
I
right.
grew up with certain types of comic books, and obviously like superhero stuff, right? And it's the way because I'm an artist, I liked how they drew the women, especially in the 90s, the way they drew the women. And
Right.
as you know, it's like you're not going to really see nudity. You'll see suggestive stuff, like I was telling you about the Justice League thing, right? That in my head, that's all I really kind of gathered throughout the years. And then once I learned how to draw, yeah, I drew my own female superheroes, my own female, like whatever it is.
Right.
But it's funny you say it kind of like rewires your brain, because for me, other than seeing Michael Myers, off some hot brunette babe, what is some babe, whatever, I didn't ever really watch corn like that. I didn't, but in a way you could say slasher films are corn, although the point of
Yeah.
slasher films isn't even about it. It's just an aspect of it. So like, is that to you in the same realm as a kid just happens to see a Friday 13th movie, sees a naked chick for the first time? I mean, you could say maybe psychologically it's bad because you're seeing them die, and then death and sex sort of have that weird, kind of like how Hellraiser did that, right? They did the BDSM type of crap.
Yeah. Well, and this is probably something that I'm going to have to look into a bit more. But there are like very strong psychological responses to seeing the nude body of the opposing sex.
Right.
And, and we know there's different versions of it too. Like for example, they did the one with straight men witnessing gay men having relations, and they were detecting the brain activity, and the straight men who were witnessing the gay men just kissing each other in public were having a more negative psychological reaction than watching maggots festering in a rotting sack of meat.
Yeah.
And then the same thing applies to, which they've not done like brain studies of this, which I don't think, but they've done, like, I can't remember what kind of studies they did, probably like meta-analysis of the psychopathic tendencies of men who have walked in on getting cheated on, and how many of those turn into like multiple homicides.
Right.
Where a guy walks into, and it happened to a very famous guy, right? He did all these kind of Scarface impressions and Skyrim impressions. I can't think what his name is now.
Yeah. This is recent, right?
Yeah, very recent.
Yeah.
He snapped. I mean, it was something like he heard it like through audio, through like a baby monitor or something, and he was at a hotel. He literally heard it on the monitor, drove like an hour from a hotel, kept that murderous energy. As soon as he got there, shot them all on the couch. Yeah. Like, so I think in a horror movie, it might be a bit different because all of the atmospheric and environmental elements of like the music and like the horror might not have the same effect as if it was just done in like a seductive kind of way. But ultimately, I do think even the presentation of a nude body is enough that it has a very strong psychological reaction. Now, is it enough to say like in a couple second flash on a Friday the 13th movie, is that as damaging as like, seeing it on Instagram and you can just sit there and stare at it for a while? I don't think so. But ultimately it's like some of that stuff is also kind of unnecessary too, right? It's kind of like the sex scenes in movies, or like those scenes with like the Michael Myers movies, right? Where it's like the girl's always changing in her bedroom when the guy comes to harm her, or she's always in the shower. It's like she could be mowing the yard, she could be,
right.
and it's like they do that to add like the more of the kind of raunchy elements into it.
It's
And
a
so I think you can probably do it.
vulnerability sort of aspect to it, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Because if you're in the shower, you're not going to expect somebody trying to stab you or whatever. So, but
Well, it's like one of those common things, right? I think people get in the shower and they're peeking out of like the curtains. They're like, it's like, okay, just checking. Because I think it's the chicken before the egg. I think because it's presented in so many movies that when people see a movie like that and then they get in the shower, it's the memory association of the movie, not because there's a natural phenomenon of when you're in the showers, you're more likely to get your home's going to get broken into or something like that, So I think it is, a play on the bit there too.
So let me then ask this follow up, because I was bringing up the drawing stuff and the horror movies, Justice League, whatever. If you got rid of all corn sites, but you still kept all of that other stuff, would that be okay with you, or is that also you would still try to get rid of that stuff in a way, or somehow minimize it?
If you want my very pragmatic take, I think that game is over.
Yeah.
Because of AI. And so I think it is ultimately like if you draw a hawk girl, but she's in a skin tight suit, you can still take that to like you see them all the time, right? They're all over the internet. They're called like denuders or something, or declosers or something. Yeah. You can take photos of anybody, put it on there, and then AI will do its best job to try to give you an image back of what they would look like without their clothes on. So it's like, there's so much. The battle of it's also technology as well too. So I kind of find it to be like, I guess, like a moot point where it's like it wouldn't even really matter. Like I would prefer, like if I could control things, I do think that would be the best way. Eliminate all of that, let some things slide. It's not like we're going to ban attractive women, right? It's like we're going to ban hot women. We can't even have any of the slightest bit of urges. But to at least do what I would think is the bare minimum, which is like hardcore porn shouldn't be intermixed with when I'm trying to read about Trump and Epstein. I have to scroll really fast or else I'm going to see, a literal 18-second video of some chick giving guy head. Right. It's like, that's where I'm kind of at, where it's like, I don't think we're doing enough, but not to say that we can accomplish all of it, and do all the goals. Go ahead.
Before, I guess I'm assuming you're going to change topics, or we're going to keep talking about this, but
yeah,
I'm going to give you this. I remember this happening to me a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't know, but I remember I went to the bar, and sometimes I'll bring a comic book with me. That's what I would do, because maybe I'm just, I don't want to watch sports. I just want to read something while I drink a bit to pass the time. Anyways, I'm reading Spider-Man. I'm reading a Spider-Man comic. It's pretty open in the air, and there's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people there. It's mostly dudes, but there's this one chick who's just happened to be sitting on my, next to me, and she's been talking to everybody there. It's like she's having some sort of, I don't know, like it's really weird. She's just talking, and then I kind of like, what is she talking about? Why is she like loud? What is? And then I realized she's trying to sell her OF out in public in a bar. And guess what? None of the guys are having it. Almost all the guys are just kind of like, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, and they look at each other and just like, like that was interesting. None of them took her seriously. They thought she was crazy, and at some point, somebody says something that she felt disrespected, I guess, or whatever it is. Someone was calling her out. She turns to me, or like I'm just in the way, and she sees I'm reading Spider-Man, and then she immediately says, "Oh, so you watch superhero? Like you like seeing like them do like this corn, like superhero corn type of stuff, and I'm like, this lady, I'm just trying to read a
Yeah.
comic. But I got pissed off. I was just like, you guys are so degenerate. I just said it out loud. I was like, "Y'all are so degenerate." And then she had that Pikachu look, that Pikachu meme of like, I
Yep,
can't believe
shocked
someone.
like the.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was like, I can't believe he's saying this to me, because no one's probably said this to her. So I'm just saying in front of everybody.
Did you have the mask on or no?
I didn't. No, I didn't have the mask on. I looked like my ugly self.
Looked you in her eyes.
But no, that would be no. I'll be honest. I would be pretty autistic if I was going around wearing a mask in places like that. But
Right.
but
But it's sad though. Is that not depressing? She's trying to advertise her OnlyFans. It's
it
probably
was so
$3.99
weird,
a month.
dude. It was so weird. I thought it was a joke. I thought like I was like being punked.
Right.
Like you're seeing this. And by the way, and this is the problem with corn in general, is that it's made people so comfortable just to put themselves out there like that.
Right.
And they don't see why it's degenerate, why it's weird. It's like, hey, there are kids around. How about you shut up about your personal, your weird stuff that you like to do, and
Yeah.
also equate superheroes with corn and this stuff, and then ask some random person. And I kind of went off on her, and then I stopped myself, because I said, I need to get out of here. Like after one beer, I was just like, I need to get out of here, because I'm pissed off, because
Ooh, I'm out of here.
yeah, I was just,
I get it.
I think I was speaking for every dude in there, because I was just like, I said, you're the reason our America is going to shit. I pretty much said, I was like,
Right.
yeah, you're the problem. I'm like, don't tell me you're from California. Like, I'm just like saying all this stuff to her.
Right.
And then I catch myself, because I'm like, oh man, if I get too heated, I'm gonna,
I'm gonna make a scene.
yeah, I just
funny.
leave. And I remember this old black dude comes up to us, and he looks at me like I'm the one causing a problem, and he's like, why are you saying this to her? And I said, yo, shut the fuck. I told him off, and I said, you know what? Here, take my seat. Why don't you talk to the prostitute? I'm out of here.
Well, you can probably relate to like in the Game of Thrones scenes when they're throwing the whore on the street and they're like, you stupid wench, get away from me. It's like, oh, now I get it. Like, yeah, whores are disgusting people.
No, dude, I was like, we need the Salem witch trials back. Like, oh my god.
That's funny. I did get I thought I did. I thought I got another super chat, maybe not. Oh yeah, we did. There we go. It's from TJ, and TJ is asking, I wonder if there is a difference in reading erotica versus watching corn. Now, this has actually kind of been a bit more of at the discussion as well, because I think as men are getting closer to agreeing as a whole, a bit more coherently that, I mean, maybe it is a good thing to be in porn. They've also been bringing up like the smut from the women's side of the aisle, which is like the literature, right? 50 Shades of Grey, I think, was many people's opening eye into that world, not really knowing that was kind of, women's form of pornography, less like visual and more sensual, more fantasy, I guess, if you will. And there is an argument too with erotica, right? Which is, even if it's not full nude photos, right? But it's clearly like drawn images meant to invoke a sense of like lust. There is an argument there too. And I think for most men, they do find clothed women, but suggestive is more attractive and arousing than fully nude women. So there's like an element there as well. But yeah, what is your take on 50 Shades of Grey and all the smut? I think it should be banned too. Like, I think that stuff's disgusting. But what's your take on it?
I'll tell you why I find it more disgusting than anybody else. Imagine you're trying to find books on Bigfoot because you're like,
oh no,
no.
I don't even know the rest of it.
No, I'll tell you this, guys. Women are the writers. They write these weird stories. I'm just gonna call them stories, whatever they are, and fantasies. And it's them getting, fancy with the Sasquatch. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And when I heard about this stuff, and I found it, by the way, I'm not saying look it up. Let's just say these are like 5-star, like hundreds of people have obviously read it, bought it, Amazon Kindle, that whole thing. I just, and then when I saw that, I was just like, you know what, ban all of this. It's actually interesting, but actually that's what kind of put me off too. Is this like I can't go anywhere, I can't like anything without it being like used as like some sort of corn, a fetish. And it's women do this. Like it's not just men that make all this crap. It's like if you're talking about writing, it's women.
Yeah.
Because I think women like the fantasy of it. Um, so
Well,
I don't know.
From what I've seen, it would be one thing if it was like,
Yes, ban it all. Ban it all. Yeah, yeah.
right. Well, it's it'd be one thing if it was just like these romance novels and it's like, it's just them being like slutty or being like in some kind of relationship. That's not what these are, dude. It's like what you said, right? It's like Bigfoot novel 3, and it's like how Bigfoot took me in front of my husband. It's like, what? And then you look at it and it's like, oh, so the unifying force in all of this material is that the woman's actually, being taken against her will. Like, oh, that's interesting. And I think ultimately, I don't think that's good, right? I don't think that's good at all for women to, build on that kind of fantasy that that their truest deep down desires that someone will just come and break the law. I don't want to be too graphic, but that is largely the majority of like what that stuff is. It's like being taken and like the humiliation aspect, and it's like what you had said with some of the categories on Pornhub, right? It's like some of these things they are very far out there, and they're very disturbing and degenerate to kind of wrap it all into one comprehensive kind of thing there. But to move away a bit from the porn stuff, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I have a couple more topics I want to get into. Do you have any questions at all? And it's totally fine if you don't want to super chat them. Just make sure you put a Q at the top, a couple spaces, that way I can see it easier in the chats. We'll take a few more questions, especially for Mr. Darkcel here. The one thing I wanted to move to beyond this actually was Pearl Davis. And I'm kind of curious, where your thoughts are with her. Do you think that she's been doing a good job in terms of like pushing for anti-feminist kind of ideals, and just where you are, and maybe did you have like a favorite kind of person in the space you think is like doing like the best work?
I think she's a grifter. She's just a newer version of Lauren Southern. I mean, if you see what Lauren Southern just recently did, she did the feminist crap, and she trying to screw over Andrew Tate apparently.
Yep.
All I gotta say is just because they're newer, just because maybe it's it's like Lauren Southern was doing the same thing 10 years ago. Pearl Davis, is it Davis? Is that her last name?
Mm-hmm.
Pearl Davis is just that new version. It just takes one, man. She'll hate, something will happen in her life, and she'll turn coat real quick. I think I'm not saying that I don't have anything against her, because I don't really watch her content, but I think she's never gonna, no one's gonna watch her like Fresh and Fit or whatever. It's like
Right.
if who else tried to do this, and they as far as I'm concerned, they've shown their true colors. But like Candace Owen, it's like she went on those
Right.
shows too. She tried doing the same thing where I'm red pill, I'm anti-feminist, but then you realize, and Andrew Wilson said it best, these people like Pearl Davis or like a Megyn Kelly,
Tommy Lauren, Candace Owens, yeah.
Tommy Lauren, yeah, they're covert feminists. Just because they say they're conservative, it's like that word's lost its meaning. It's like they still want they still want the satisfaction of Instagram. They still want the satisfaction of being put out there. And I mean, hell, half of them, they're not even married, man. They're telling women what to do, but then they themselves are like pushing 30, or they're already in their 30s, and they're talking about marriage, but they're, it's actually easy to dismantle them. Just ask them, where's your husband?
Right.
Where's your kids?
Yeah, it's extremely hypocritical. I mean, Tommy Lauren and Laura Ingraham and a couple of those other ones are just, some of like the most egregious offenders, and it's kind of wild, I'm a conservative woman, but here I am unmarried at the ripe age of 32 with no kids. And I'm basically wielding a high profile position, usher. And it's same thing with Candace Owens, right? She crosses the line when she's trying to, give Nick advice from a position of relational authority. And it's like, you're a hypocrite too. You didn't get married until 4 years after the age he is right now. And again, it's a major problem, and I think Andrew Wilson's right. Like, I think covert feminism is worse than actual feminism.
Yep.
I think largely anyone that's a covert feminist understands the game and she's using it to her advantage. And I think that's the worst kind of woman, a one that is self-aware of how she can manipulate things, because you will basically get owned. And it's just this idea, right? It's like, you can see it time and time again, even in the Bible. Men are called to love their wives as the church, and women are called to submit. Like, doesn't anyone kind of like take that into perspective? It's like multiple times, even going back to, Genesis 3:16 as well. The man is called to love, the woman is called to submit. And I think, that, and you look around and you see the average marriage, it's like these women are not submissive. Just because occasionally you can tell your wife, hey, can you go pick up that thing off the ground for me, does not mean your wife is submissive. And we're so far away from what it actually should be that it is like a lot of the blind leading the blind. And I'd even brought this up yesterday with Outside the Overton. And it's one of the things that I'm kind of glad I really don't have to worry about myself. But there's so many guys who basically are limited by the leash that their wife allows them, which is to say, like, they might feel otherwise, but they won't, because if they do say something that's negative against women, their wife is aware that they said that. There goes their sexual access, because actually, as it turns out, their wife is still operating under feminist, which is, I'm only going to give you sexual access if you do what I want, which in that sense is, well, who has the power in the relationship, right? And this idea that sex doesn't have power, it's not important, or it's not a meaningful, aspect of the relationship, is just so, it's retarded, to be quite frank. And that's what kind of angers me the most is, not only is it hard enough to fight against feminazis who are just insane, and to be quite honest, to make it easy because they're also just idiots, but the majority of these women that are covert feminists are entirely submissive to their workplace. They'll do what their boss asks them to do. They'll show up early on time. Their boss can tell them, like, no, don't talk like that. Tighten up your dress, tuck your chair in. I don't want to see that. But then when they go home to the guy who basically has given everything, is in a position where he is sacrificing, as much as he possibly can, or, as men's love is very sacrificial. She's, he asks her to do this. She gets angry. He wants her to do this. She gets angry. He wants her to have sex when he wants to at these specific times. She gets angry. And it's sad, and for me, maybe I was, and the reason why I asked you about the incel thing earlier, right, about guys who come from an ego position, was because, like, I was there. Where, like, I did look at it in terms of a lens of, like, sure, I could be with these women, but it's like I don't want to be. Like, I don't even want to waste my time. Like I'm just going to get angry having to listen to this woman speak. You know what I mean? And, like, that's kind of like where I was coming from with a lot of it, ultimately, until I did get back into the dating market. But I was just like, it's just a waste of time. And I couldn't, as hard as I tried, I couldn't find a woman who felt even worth the time forever. And that's why I kind of came at from that perspective too. So you combine those elements where, I don't even think they're worth it. And if you want access, it's an absolute pain, right? The ball and chain. And then also understanding that on the back end, if everything kind of fails out or it goes poorly, you could end up in the news because you're going to get, they're going to accuse you of assault, or she's going to take all of your stuff and your children. And so at a certain point, it's just like, bro, I'm like, why would you? Who's willingly signing up for that bullshit? And that's where I kind of came from it too. And it goes like that female nature as well. And that's partly like, I could be mad at the, everyone's favorite people from Israel. I could be mad at, a lot of things, but I'm mostly mad at the men and the generations of men who just shortly preceded me, because I want to know, like, what was it like to be absolutely fucking packed in by a generation of women? And now you're made to be submissive. And now me and my kin have to figure out how to get out of this hellhole. So I have the majority of my angers with, like, boomers and the other men, which is like,
yeah.
At what point did you decide, like, yeah, whip me on the back, I'll take two more? Oh, what's that, honey? You don't have sex for 20 years? Fine by me. I'll just hate myself. Do it again, honey. I liked it. What? Like, and that's kind of like where I come from, which is like, what happened to men? Who were these guys who just willingly like went along with it and like, let their guard down and let women dominate? Because what happened
It,
between
it's an. I think it's. By the way, that I can give you a simple answer. Uh, the boomers were the ones that hated their parents, didn't want kids, but had them anyway because they're hippies and they just want to screw. They don't believe in biology. By the way, these are the same people telling us that men and women are equal and that if you have a baby, just off it. It's like this. They're very nihilistic. You know what happened? All the countercultures that came about it too. It's all nihilism. So
right,
boomers are the fault of it. It's not just like I can't pay for something or I can't get a house. It's they ruin the social aspect of our society. So they and it feels like it really is like this like deliberate hatred for the next generations. So I actually put
right,
boomers. I think boomers are evil, and they've now created a whole society. It's always this slow process, but it happened, and now we're seeing it. 100% blame the boomers. Um,
yeah,
it is what it is. I
right,
and they don't care.
and
They don't care.
and
By
and
the way,
it's
same people. If they saw their kids on the street, they don't care. They're not going to sell their houses to them. They're not going to put it in their will. They're going to give it back to the government. It's like these people do not care.
right, and that's in, and I hate even trying to feel like I'm moving to the spot of like just dumping all blame on an entire generation because like like most things I think there is a multivariable analysis, right? There's definitely more than just one cause, but a lot of times there's a primary cause. There's like a primal cause. It was like this was the first domino that kind of fell. And I do think there is something to be said thereof about boomers, and you can see it too in more than ways than just letting their guard down in terms of women and just opening the gates to rampant degeneracy. You see the way they are with like their generational wealth transfer, right? Boomers, there's like a big hard stop where boomers did not pass wealth down to their children. They'd rather go on cruises and blow all their money so they don't have to see their kids. They don't want anything to do with their children. So not only do they hate their own parents, they hate their kids.
Yep.
And it's just a wild thing to try to even begin to understand or walk into like, what is the mindset of a boomer? Like, how could you care so little about literally anything that matters, but cry at Adam Sandler movies? It's like, you people are disgusting. Like, you're so broken. And, and an element of that too is it's not just them, right? It's like, you have to go and look at the fact that the government obviously was, running a lot of different operations behind the scenes. They clearly had a hand in helping the subversion occur.
Yep. They gave them the incentive, yeah.
Right, exactly. And there's like I said, multivariable analysis. Lord, I couldn't get it out. No, one thing I did want to say too, because I wanted to turn this over to you because we are getting close to running out of time. Was there a topic that we missed that you wanted to bring up? I know we didn't cover everything exactly, but I wanted to turn over to you if you wanted a topic you wanted to go in at.
Well, I'll answer. One of the because you asked me who I do watch or maybe look up to or look into because I know you brought the Pearl Davis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I would say what's funny is I don't watch any incel content. I don't watch any black pill content. None of that. It's actually quite the opposite. I watch things that don't remind me of that crap. Don't put me in that. But at the same time, I enjoy Andrew Wilson. I enjoy Nick Fuentes. I enjoy.
Yeah.
I do. And by the way, I do enjoy Fresh and Fit and whatever. And you know why I watch those? Because it's our version of The View. It's our version of like, it's like
Nailed you. Yeah.
and it's just weird. It's funny because I'm like, well, this is just fun to listen to because I want to hear a bunch of idiots. And it's funny because every time I'm thinking, I think a lot of incels should do this. It's like if you're ever feeling bad that you're not getting laid or you're not with a girl or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you watch that stuff, it's just gonna remind you of what you're not missing. Like you're not like I don't even want to be around people every time I watch those type of shows. It's like I want nothing to do with it with the modern culture. So as far as what channels I follow, a lot of gaming channels. I like Asmongold. I like Fooster. I like a lot of these
Yeah.
just people playing games that I'll never play because I don't really game like that. So
Asmongold's, I love Asmongold, man. He's
yeah, I
great.
mean, oh, by the way, I wanted to say this. You know how I found Asmongold? It's just the funniest thing ever.
Huh.
Um, I was watching a debate between, this is way back in like 2017 or 2018. That had to have been around the time. This is like when blood sports was becoming big, with like Andy
Yeah.
Worski and all that stuff. I
Yeah.
remember I found Nick Fuentes because of Andy Worski, and I remember the first Nick Fuentes
That's
debate I
funny.
watched was him and that Halsey guy who was like pro-Israel. And I
Yeah.
remember Nick Fuentes pulled out a knife and said, "You really want to go down this route? You really want to deal with it? It's like I don't think you can
Yeah.
handle it." And people call Nick the knife. They call him Nick the knife.
Yeah.
That's how I found Nick. Now, ever since then, I would like try to catch everything he did or was about. And one of them was him and Sargon of Akkad. Remember that guy? So
Mm-hmm.
Nick and
Yeah.
Sargon,
Carl Benjamin.
were going up against Destiny and Hassan Piker. And guess who one of the moderators was? Asmongold, funnily enough.
Really?
Yeah, this is so old. And I remember being like, who's this guy? I'm thinking, who's this Asmongold guy? And then I just got sucked into it, man. You know what I mean? I just I watched all his
That's crazy.
it was before Elden Ring, but I was watching a lot of his random gaming streams. But then when Elden Ring came out, and I just watched him just play the crap out of that. I
Yeah.
watched his whole Dark Souls thing, whole stream. I watched I don't care too much about World of Warcraft, so I kind of like skip that stuff. But
Yeah.
remember the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial thing? I watched the
Yes.
whole thing. I watched the whole thing watching Asmongold.
I saw some of that too. I think when I had first gotten introduced to Asmongold, I'm pretty sure it was because he was reacting to a reaction to a reaction. Because at that time, I had used YouTube for two things. It was politics and to watch old school RuneScape. Because I'm,
Oh
if
yeah.
I had more time, truth be told, I'd still be addicted to it. To be
And
honest.
then I was playing it back in '07, so I got you.
Bro, yeah, no. And so
Yeah.
I think it was Jimmy, who's a content creator for OSRS, made a reaction video to Asmongold playing old school for the first time. And they kind of started this like back and forth. And I think that was kind of my introduction to Asmongold. Now, I do think he's not, I think he's hilarious. And I think for the most part, he probably represents a broad majority of young men who probably just are naturally right leaning. But definitely clean your room. Definitely, wash your dishes, right? Like, I think that goes without saying, but I do think he's largely, a net positive. He says things how he should. And it's cool that he moved over to a Kick, I believe, right? He's done with Twitch.
Yeah, and they're apparently paying him more than Twitch ever did.
And that was good. I think that was a direct response to Hassan constantly getting away with what no other conservative, Twitch streamer would ever be able to get away with in terms of his rhetoric and stuff. And so, that's a positive. And I think he's got some weight to throw around. And I think he would be a good voice to bring in like an Asmongold Nick Fuentes, like, collab. That might not go as well as what people would think it would, but, it would be cool to see those worlds kind of collide there.
I think it's just the it's weird because I think certain people would totally get along if they talk to each other, but it's that stigma. I don't know if Nick can ever really get rid of that stigma.
It seems to be dropping.
I think more people are opening up because it is that sort of I don't give a damn anymore about being called a Nazi or anti-Semitic. So it's like who cares at this point? But the problem is I think someone with Asmon, he still wants his like World of Warcraft sort of backing, that sort of crowd. And
Right.
I think if he went all full on, because he still streams games, he just does a lot of politics now. But if he just stopped all together with gaming, I think he'd just lose a lot of people. So I
Right.
think he has to just stick with that. It's
That niche.
yeah, it's like he's on the line, you know what I mean? He's got one foot, into the door, but he's not quite.
Yeah. I guess I just was thinking that just because of how much political content he's been making compared to where he was at just like a few months ago. I think maybe, I don't know if he's like trying to actively make a move over there, but he's obviously big enough that it doesn't matter. Like he's obviously a variety streamer. He can cover whatever he wants. People will watch it. And so I think once you get to that status, it's probably, you know, at least probably good. I don't think he'll ever react to Nick Fuentes on stream though, right? He probably wouldn't risk his channels and stuff doing that. He could probably get away with it on Kick. But he probably wouldn't bring that to YouTube. But with that though, I do want to say, was there anything else you wanted to add? Because I'll probably turn over to some of these chats here. Go have a back and forth with chat for a little bit before we sign off.
No, I guess that's it. But I really, because I was gonna bring up the red pill, black pill, but we already talked about that. So I think, yeah, I think that's really it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And if you think of anything, just let me know.
Yeah,
I'll grab a few of these, some of these recent ones here, and let me scroll up a little bit. Let me see here. This is, oh yeah, we have the one I saw earlier, which I don't have in front of me, which was women are submissive to Chad, right? Which I think that the idea is it's that HR meme, you know, and it's the guy saying the same thing, but the one guy's ugly and the girl's like, oh my gosh, and the other guy's like, you know, handsome, and she's like, oh yes, definitely. You know, I think that that meme is pretty accurate.
You know, it is accurate because I remember watching. I don't know who this guy was, but he was on one of those talk shows. It was this dude, very tall dude, really big. You know, somebody who probably I don't know who the actor was, but he looked like a wrestler. He had that kind of wrestler kind of physique, and he was on the talk show. And I don't know if this was like Fallon or I don't know what it could possibly have been, but the person sitting next to him, who I did know who she was, it was Jennifer Love Hewitt. So, but like I know what you did last summer. That Jennifer Love Hewitt, you know that person. Yeah. But
all right.
So I'm thinking in my head, I'm watching this guy, and he's talking about two things, which I really enjoy, funnily enough. So it's like he was talking about his wedding. He had a wedding. And he was a huge Metallica fan. So he had the band, this like classical band, play Nothing Else Matters on, you know, the violin and all that stuff. And he was talking about how his mother thought it was really good music. And when he told her it was Metallica, she was like, what? You know, it's like, oh, that's funny, yada, yada. Jennifer Love Hewitt's laughing at all this stuff. Him talking about Metallica, he said he's a huge fan of like the thrash metal stuff. And I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And then suddenly he's like, oh yeah. And then I used to own Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man comics and Wolverine comics and this and that. And I'm sitting there like, and by the way, Jennifer Love Hewitt, you know, oh, ha, 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 you know, and she, by the way, she's way past her prime. She's like in her 40s. This dude looks like he's, you know, he's in his prime. And I'm like, oh, this is like the MILF trying to get with the, you can tell she's really, yeah. But what was weird, I was like, I remember I posted it way back on my old channel. I posted it and said, if this was me on that chair and I was saying this exact same crap, if I was talking about Metallica and Spider-Man comics, people would cringe. They would.
Right.
They would cringe.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. If it's a good looking dude and he's talking about anything that's niche, he's gonna look good about it. It's like, oh, he's a nerd. How cute.
Right. Oh wow, he's so passionate about that. It is sad though, you know, I see it and I guess I'm at the point where I can kind of laugh at it, but I try not to because I know for some guys this is like you know, it's getting existential for I think a lot of them. Yeah. I did have one. There was one from about where is it? Sargon of Akkad. There it is from Carl Johansson. I hope I'm saying it right. Carl Johnson. He says Sargon is getting close to the limits of UK hate speech laws. Wouldn't be surprised to see him hauled away. He called them parasites. Yeah. And, you know, if Project Esther gets pretty, you know, much further along here in the States as well, too, we're probably going to have to start concerning ourselves about that as well. And take care, Ragnar. Ragnar says, W Atlas, W Office Spider-Man, W Chat. Have to go. We'll watch the rest later. Peace. Great topics here. They want Office Spidey in the multiverse. I think I've seen that chat a couple of times. Are you going to join the multiverse?
No, I want nothing to do with the other spider people or any of that crap. I'll stick to the Groypers.
Same, same. We have from Lord have mercy, Red Kayaks says, if Tom Brady got divorced, what chance do we have?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's a sad story too. You know, the it happened to somebody else as well who was pretty big too. But you know the story as it goes, right? She was training and learning Brazilian jiu-jitsu with a guy who wasn't her husband.
That's right.
And it
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it turns out that yeah, if a woman gets thrown around by a guy who, you know, can easily physically dominate her, it turns out she's attracted to it. And next thing you know, Tom Brady got cheated on.
It's the whole it's all the perceived violence. It's not. It's like they want to be. It's let me bring this. It's going to be another reference, but I keep thinking of that. They keep popping in my head. But I remember when I was watching Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. You know how that movie opens up? It's literally this dude, this radio jockey type of guy, talking to people on the radio, and everybody's talking about Michael Myers and how he hasn't been around in 6 years. A woman just happens to it introduces the main characters while they're all listening to the same radio station, right? But they're all
Yeah.
in different locations. And the main chick in the movie, she's like getting undressed, whatever, showing her uh, uh, lingerie or whatever. And she's listening to the radio, and this lady on the radio who's talking to the radio jockey says, she says how she wants Michael Myers. And then the radio jockey's like, "What do you mean? Like, you like some Jeffrey Dahmer stuff? Like you want to cook with him or something?" And it's like, "No, I want to see what's behind that mask. I think he just needs a hug and this and that." But what's really interesting is the main character is looking over to the radio like she's interested now. Like she's like, "Oh, I wonder what Michael Myers is like under that mask and all this." And I'm like, "Oh my god." I'm like, this is a violent murderer. You know, this is like
Yeah.
this is a guy who would snap your neck. He's not gonna have dialogue with you. Like like
Right. But
and
this is
yeah.
I mean, but this is like you see this all the time, right? There's like been two recent incidents of this. There was the one guys whose Tinder profile, I think it was Tinder, it might have been Hinge, that went viral, right? Where it was like he posted, it was like his bio was like, you know, I'm gonna be upfront and honest. You know, I did time for beating my ex-girlfriend. And then the split is showing like all the messages he's getting. And it didn't matter, like girls were attracted to it. And then vice versa, you have all of these inmates, right? There's like multiple famous ones in the last like 5 years alone they get all these letters from girls who want to be with them. Like, I'll wait for you until you get out. And again, they're all violent murderers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I think there's, especially with the internet sees all. It is kind of like the eye of Sauron, if you will. It will, at some point, everything gets exposed.
Mm.
And I think that we're coming up on that point, which is when you look deeper into the actual things that women are attracted to, and you were to break it down categorically, people would probably start throwing up in public if they saw how big of a percentage of young women are fantasizing about being, you know, assaulted and taken by, you know, a serial killer or a violent murderer or, you know, someone along those lines too. And I think that's ultimately a reflection of like the fact that we don't instill Christian values into people, you know, and we are in kind of third world savagery, barbarianism, where it's like
Yep.
power rules all. It doesn't matter what the intellect can do or what values you have. It's like, it's raw power. And that's what women seek to be besides, and nothing else matters. And that's a bad spot to be in, especially because we're a first world country. So if our dating market operates on third world values, you know, it's only a matter of time before I think everything becomes third world. And there's another one in here. Let me grab this next one. I'm missing a couple of these. I'm sorry, guys. There was one said Tim Pool and Tucker Carlson might as well be Russian spies. Yeah. But that's what it was. K-Max Strum said, this guy has a channel. And yes, Darkcel is on Rumble. The description is at the bottom of the link is in the description. It should be at the bottom of the description or at the top, one of the two. So if you want to follow Darkcel, you can follow him on Rumble. Is there anywhere else they can follow you?
I mean, I have X. You can follow me on there if you just want real time me talking about or push, doing that stuff. But yeah,
Perfect.
no, if it's for videos, yeah, it's only Rumble. YouTube just doesn't like me, so there's no point. I have a YouTube channel, but there's no point in following me on there.
Gotcha. And yeah, you can and if you can find me on X too, I tag Darkcel on X as well, so you can follow him from that tweet there too. Delita says you got to be hot to thug max. Ugly guys get locked up.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, well,
And then we have from Kix here. He says Tom Brady became a typical victim. He allowed his wife to mold him into her ideal husband, and every man who's ever become that has been met with divorce because he's then too perfect. And then you probably ultimately get the what's it called? I gotta find myself. I don't know if I've truly found myself. And it's
Right,
like,
right.
woman, you're 50. You found yourself. You are who you are.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, right. Did I say channel wrong? Did I say chain al? I'm getting roasted in the comments. But no, with that, man, I appreciate you coming on very much. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and opinions. And again, I do want to apologize. When we first brought you in was under the banner of Jaw Opener Podcast. And so, ultimately with that split up happening, it was, I should have been in better contact with you, but thank you again for coming on. You are obviously a character, right? But I appreciate you. And I think I agree with you on a lot of positions. And I want to say this too, while you're here with me, one of the ideas that, I think would be good, and I think I would probably ultimately join you, I would like to set up a debate, a panel debate about feminism. Now that would require, and I can do it. I'll send somebody the remote co-director controls for the stream. So I probably would need to have one of you moderators who are wonderful soldiers helping do that. But the only issue is I don't have too many feminists in my circle, so I don't have too many people I can reach out to. So if anybody knows there's a feminist or maybe a small time creator who would argue on feminist tendencies, definitely let me know. Put in the show submissions in Discord, because I would like to coordinate another debate here soon, especially on that topic as well. Yeah, and then I would extend that to you as well, Darkcel. You can join me, do a 2-on-2 panel probably, and see if we can't find two people who would want to do something like that. But is there anything else you wanted to shout out, before we go ahead and start wrapping things up?
No, that's it, man. And yeah, I'd be happy to do a debate, 2-on-2. What else can I say? With great inceldom comes no responsibility. So, it is what it is. Whatever life holds in store for me, I'll always remember these words. With great inceldom comes no responsibility. This is my gift. This is my curse. Who am I? I am Darkcel. Danny Elfman music plays.
Thanks. I know. I wish I had I'd do it for you. I had the sound controls for it, but
the final swing.
Right. But thank you. Thank you again for coming on. I do appreciate you coming on too. And like I've been telling everybody, compared to my previous co-host, anyone on planet Earth would be a breath of fresh air. And anyone who's still watching, make sure you smash the like button. If you haven't already, definitely consider yourself an enemy. And as always, support Kash Patel, ban women from public life, and hopefully we can one day get back the Christian nation that we were supposed to be had. And again, thanks everybody for being here. Again, appreciation to the mods who helped facilitate everything as well. I'm probably not going to be streaming for a couple of days. I got to get some work done on the back end to make sure I can pay rent. So I'll probably see you guys sometime in the middle of the week next week. And with that, thank you as well, Darkcel. You guys have a good rest of your night. Christ is King. Take care.
The chains clink, hear the echo in the fog of the land. Dollar bills on the leash, gripped tight by the hand. Eagles clip, can't fly, wings covered in grime. Statues cry, tears of oil, rusted gears at a time. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Puppet strings pulled tight, marionettes in the hall. Politicians dance smooth while the empire falls. Mountains of death capital walls. Drums of war beat heavy, echo loud in the haze. Promises shattered like glass in a maze. Voices scream betrayal, trapped in the blaze. The flag waves torn, lost in forgotten days. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan, they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Never bow, never break, never simping again. Simping's a sickness, let the truth be the pen. Trust the plan, they said, but look where we stand. A chessboard flip, now it's war in the sand. Trump card played wrong, now the deck's in their hands. Deal signed in the dark, bleeding out